What to play? So many choices, both new and old. Oh wait, no, I already got it. Ha. A classic. A legendary game. Something that set new standards, broke down barriers, a true trendsetter. Well, I think y'all know what I'm talking about. Alright, I hope you guys are as excited as I am to try this one out. Games like this only come around once in a lifetime. Sumo attire adjuster? Oh, man, I tell ya, I can't wait to dig into this one. Well, alright, let's get going. Oh, Metroid. Well, that makes more sense after what I said earlier. Didn't I also have... Okay, alright. Box. Well, Super Metroid and Metroid Prime are actually two of my favorite games ever. The original, though, I've barely ever messed with, so let's change that today. Let's revisit Metroid. Also, I didn't do that. It came like this, I swear. One last thing before we get started, I just want to explain how I'm going to be playing the game today. My Nintendo Entertainment System's pin connector has been acting up lately. Doesn't play games so well anymore. It involves a lot of resetting and just overall not the best situation right now. So unfortunately, I will not be using the NES today. Rather, I'll be using my RetroN 5. This is an amazing little console here. You can play legit cartridge games. It runs them like an emulator, but the main benefit here is that I can use the original Nintendo controller to at least play the game authentically. So now that I got that part out of the way, let's get this started. Classic title screen. Feelings of isolation, just overall ominous sense to it. Super awesome to see. This title screen has been like referenced and parodied and redone so many times. What do we have here? Emergency order. Defeat the Metroid of planet ZEBETH. ZEBETH, what? Destroy Mother Brain, the mechanical life vein. What is this? Well, that's a heck of a title screen. Not unusual for games of this era to have weird translation issues like that. I've seen it before in other games that I have, like Mario Bros. 3 and Tetris. It's very similar. But let's break this down real quick. So first, Metroid. Singular. Well, how hard could that be? It's only asked me to defeat one. Easy. Issue 2. ZEBETH, whichever you prefer. Metroid Other M, the first in the series to have major voice acting. They pronounce it ZEBETH. I never liked that personally, but, you know, to each his own. I like Zebes more. But we can all agree that it shouldn't be this Shakespearean twist on the word ZEBETH. Weird. And then Mother Brain, the mechanical life vein. Come again? I have no idea. I don't even know where to begin. I don't know where to end. It's weird and I want to move on. So, here we go. Let's get into it. So here we are on the first screen of Metroid. As I said before, this game is more about exploration than it is simply moving left to right. In fact, it's an open world. You don't have any stages to complete necessarily. The whole world is here for you to explore. But to get further into it, you have to collect upgrades, like this one right here. That's called the Morph Ball. Being able to roll up into a sphere and travel through smaller areas, that gives you access to more of the world. As you move forward, you also have to navigate dangerous enemies and try to build up your supply of energy, which is basically health. The game always starts you with 30 units of health. That's probably good for a handful of hits before you die. You can collect up to 99, and then you can even expand that with energy tanks. A big part of this game is powering up your character. Not only can you find more items, but you can also find more ammunition and more health, which makes the game easier the further you get into it, the more you explore. Going back to the exploration thing again, this right here If I had simply gone right, I would have had to go back to then go left to find the morph ball to progress through that area. That's like the first taste of exploration the game gives you. It's like a silent tutorial telling you, hey, you can't just move left to right. You have to move left, right, up, and down if you want to complete this game. Well, after playing for a few minutes, I can safely say that I feel lost. The point of the game is to be a maze. It's on the box, so hey, points for accuracy. But the issue is that there's no in-game map system, so it's really hard to tell where you've already been. That's probably the biggest issue. It's not hard to get your way around, it's just a matter of, have I already been here? And there's no in-game map system, so you don't have any kind of point of reference for your position, which is definitely something that the sequels improved on. They all have some kind of in-game map. So, let's see. Maybe we can consult the manual. Worth a shot?
Alright, let's take a look at the manual and see if it can help us out with our issue. Alright, we got table of contents, the story, how to play, important points. Okay, here we go. Important points to remember and advance the game. Let's go to page 11. Cute little hand drawing there. Okay. Destroy Mother Brain. The giant mechanical organism. So not mechanical life vein? Which is it? Seek out the mini-bosses. Wow. Look at Ridley. He looks nothing like that in the game. Wow. Okay. Aha! A map. That's what we want. So, okay. Corridor 1. That's where we started. And then I got to here for sure. But then... like a map here. But not here. So, they bother to like draw out the whole first area. But then nothing else. These are all huge areas. Nothing. Oh. Okay, well, that ain't gonna help us. Well, the manual failed us, but that's okay. Back in the 80s, Nintendo actually printed a copy of the map in their Nintendo Power magazine, so people got like a really detailed look at what the game actually looks like. That definitely helped people out with their confusion. Today, we have the internet. With a quick Google search, I was able to pull up a very detailed map of the game, so now I know where I am. Definitely makes everything way more manageable. So, with that, let's proceed.
Now that we have ourselves a map, we can track where we are in the world and approach exploration much more efficiently. This is a good opportunity to actually talk about the game's world. It's broken up into 5 environments, 4 of which you have to explore, 1 of which acts as the final area where the last battle against Mother Brain takes place. Let's take a moment to introduce each area. The game's first area is Brinstar. This is where the story begins, and where a lot of your early exploration takes place. This is definitely the easiest area to get around. It has a pretty simple setup to it. It's divided into 4 sub-areas. The first side, which is this blue area, this is the left side of Brinstar. Then you have this middle portion that's broken up by these areas that have these acid pits in them. There's also a top middle portion that's defined by its green stone architecture, and then the right portion, which is defined by its gold color. The fact that they kind of code each area like this makes it so much easier to explore once you've gone around a little bit. Brinstar also houses connections to 3 other environments. You can get to Kraid's hideout, you can get to Norfair, and you can also get to the game's final area, all from Brinstar. So this is an area that you'll definitely be exploring the most out of all the game's areas. The second major area that most people explore is Norfair. Norfair has basically 2 environments to it. Magma volcanic type scenery rooms where there's pits of lava below you and creatures that are fire oriented, and then these weird like insectoid rooms that have these strange bubble formations, and they just kind of look like it's some kind of insect hive look to it. It's very weird and very strange, but really cool to look at too. The color palette's very interesting. Norfair is also probably the most complicated area to explore. To get some of the simple upgrades like the high jump boots or the ice beam, not hard. You could definitely find them on accident. But if you want to get the screw attack or the wave beam, that's where I needed to consult the map. Without that, I would never have been able to find them. Let alone if I did find them on accident somehow, I never would have been able to get my way back out again. It's a very complicated environment. This area is where you have to use your morph ball bombs basically to explore, to reveal fake hidden blocks. They're just everywhere in Norfair. The third major area is Kraid's hideout. Although I pushed into here on a little expedition shortly after the game began. You really shouldn't come here though until after at least getting the high jump boots to explore most of it. Kraid's hideout though is also pretty bright and colorful compared to other areas in the game. The dominant colors here are definitely white and green. It's got this kind of castle aesthetic to it. Kraid's hideout is not that complicated, at least the pathway to get to Kraid himself, the boss of this area. However, the left side of the map is extremely complicated, and it even has a fake Kraid boss in it that you fight, and there's no reward for defeating it. It's just like a waste of your life. So I definitely avoided wasting my time there, because ironically, the real Kraid is easier to get to. However, it does have this large chasmous pit that you jump down. Ugh, we'll deal with that later. The last major area you explore before the finale is Ridley's hideout. This is one of the most difficult environments in the game. Appropriately colored too, it's like a red death fortress. So many enemies will specifically target you with their attacks, and they do a ton of damage. I had a hard time keeping my health above one energy tank at any given point. One pro is that the environment isn't that complicated though. It's nowhere near as complex as Norfair is. I didn't find myself using the map all that often here. Getting to Ridley himself also isn't too difficult, but you don't have much of a chance to grind up energy beforehand. To get to Ridley, you have to go through this really long death gauntlet room with narrow platforms and a lava pit and all these hard enemies coming at you. They don't give you much of a chance to prepare if you're not expecting it at least. You just find yourself, oh, there's Ridley. It's worth mentioning though that there's no fake Ridley. There's a fake Kraid, but there's no fake Ridley, which is weird. I kind of would have assumed that there would have been fake for both. Why is it just Kraid that gets the fake one? It's really strange to me, but whatever. At least it's that much. I don't have to worry about wasting my life on a fake Ridley, just the real one. Getting in and out alive is more the challenge here. The game's final area, Tourian, cannot be accessed until after you've defeated both Ridley and Kraid. Doing so results in a bridge appearing in this statue room, which then leads to Tourian's elevator. Down there you'll find the Metroids themselves, along with Mother Brain, for the game's final battle. It's important to note, though, that you're not supposed to just barrel through these objectives. You will not survive, or even, for that matter, get into Tourian, if you don't find at least some of the game's upgrades. Missiles for opening red doors, morph ball bombs to reveal hidden blocks. Without those, you can't even get to Kraid's hideout or Ridley's hideout. And then the ice beam for freezing the Metroids. Without these, you can't even beat the game. But there are a ton of optional items, like the screw attack, which turns your jumps into a deadly move, or the Various suit, which gives you damage resistance. Things like this are totally optional, and it's a reward for exploring. Same goes for the expansions. You can get energy tank expansions and missile expansions that increase your health and your missile count, respectively. That's your reward for testing every room for secrets, is improving your character's stats, making Samus more durable and more powerful in the process. It's definitely one of the game's high points, and the further in you get, the stronger you feel, and the more fun it is. I was having way more fun with this game the further in I got, because I could feel the difference of having all these abilities versus the start of the game when all you can do is shoot up or down. It's really awesome. Let's shift topics, though, into something a little bit more negative. Now that we're becoming more familiar with the game, I wanted to address a couple of quirks that I've noticed as I've been playing through it, whether they be negative or noteworthy. Number one, you're limited in the directions you can shoot. You can only shoot up and left and right. Now, in itself, that wouldn't be that big of a deal, but the problem is, so many of the game's enemies are coming at you diagonally from the ceiling, which gives you pretty limited options in intercepting or shooting them, especially because a lot of these enemies move very quickly. This leads to situations where you just can't get a good shot. You have to hope to just run into your bullets or just avoid them altogether. This is something that they definitely improved, though, in Super Metroid, which is the next Metroid game on consoles. You can shoot in all 8 directions. It's great. So they definitely knew that this was something they needed to add in the sequels. Even in Metroid Zero Mission, which is a remake of the original, you can shoot in 8 directions, including shooting down as well. So they fixed this later on, but it's definitely a thing to deal with in the original. Now, the second quirk is something that definitely, I gotta be honest, pisses me off. It makes me really an angry little boy. I can't stand it. Enemies can go through doors. Why? What? Like, on a technical level, I don't even understand how that happens. So, the game loads room to room. You transition through a door, it loads the next room. Enemies can make that transition. They can travel between the rooms. It's just so bizarre to me. And they damage you as they do it. That's the part that pisses me off. You can't do anything about it. You just sit there and take it. I'm going in this room. Oh, look, here he comes. Boom. Free damage. It even happens in weird situations where these flying enemies are at the edge of the screen. You can see them, like, flickering and freaking out. You think they're gone. You enter the room. There's the door being opened. I load in. Boom. And they just took damage. Wow. It even happens in the game's final area. It's just so aggravating. You're loading this room, you see the ring projectiles spawn and then fly toward the door, and you're like, no. Oh, there we go. And those things do a lot of damage, too. So it's just, like, extra aggravating. It's like a tax. You're paying a toll, and the fee is your life as you go through these doors. It's ridiculous, and I hate it so much. Now, issue 3 is something a little bit nitpicky. Probably hard to tell what just happened there, but my issue is hit stun. Hit stun is when you take damage in a video game, your character gets like knocked back a little bit, and you get a couple frames of invincibility. I feel like Metroid's hit stun is shorter than most games, compared to like, say, Mega Man 2. You get hit, I got like 2.5 seconds of invincibility there. That gives me a chance to kind of reposition myself, figure things out. Doesn't mean the game's easy. Games that have this are plenty difficult. But going back to Metroid again, like, look how I take multiple hits all in like a short span here. The hit stun only seems to last a fraction of a second. And this led to a lot of deaths early on in the game for me before I started to really figure out how dangerous enemies can be because of this. So the last thing I want to touch on is how the game handles death. This is where its age definitely shows. So, dying in this game is not like dying in a normal game, where you have to restart your progress, restart the level. No. When you die, it generates a password. This password is how you would continue the game, if you wanted to stop playing. And then it sends you back to the beginning of whatever area you're in. In this case, it was Norfair. But here's the quirk. You still have all your progression. So you'll notice in the top left, my missile count is unchanged from when I died a moment ago. So, people figured out pretty quickly that this is a good shortcut maneuver. I was done exploring Norfair. I don't want to be bothered to have to go through all those rooms and blow up blocks and all kinds of mayhem. So, I just throw myself into lava. Easy shortcut. So, it's definitely something that can be very easily abused. They actually ban this in most categories of Metroid speedrunning. They call it warpless runs if you don't use it. I only used it twice that I can recall. Once was right here for the example in Norfair, and the other was in Ridley's Fortress shortly after beating him. In both instances, there was nothing I cared to explore further. I knew what my directive was to go from, so might as well just take a shortcut and give myself a break. It's definitely interesting. Which, it brings up the point that if you legitimately were like, you know what, I'm done with my session of Metroid, I wish to take a break now, well, you better figure out a way to die to generate that password. You can't just, like, generate it on command, as far as I'm aware. So, really weird. It's like if you're playing Super Mario Bros. And, like, the only way to save the game was to just crash Mario into a pit or an enemy on purpose and kill him. It's just a little strange. You should be able to generate one on command. But that's just like the penalty of importing a game that was released on a console in Japan that had an actual save system. They had to, like, jerry-rig it when it came out to the US by adding in this password death mechanic. So, definitely an odd case. Alright, it's time to get serious. Let's beat this game. So like I said before, to get into the game's final area, Tourian, we have to defeat both Ridley and Kraid. Well, Kraid is up first. His fight, pretty simple. Even getting to him is pretty simple. It's very easy. I didn't need a map to do it. I found it just by going there. So getting to him, enter the room. Here he is in all of his 5.5 feet, give or take, of glory. Now, for any long-time Metroid fans, you may be surprised to see Kraid like this. He's a little on the short side. Only by a little bit. I mean, he's what, 6 feet here? I think in Super Metroid, he's only increased by about 70? It's not much. Yeah, so he's drastically different in every iteration after this, that's for sure. His fight's pretty simple. He just shoots a bunch of projectiles at you. You can freeze them with the ice beam. The quirk here is that when you freeze enough projectiles, he can't spawn more, which then leaves him open to attack. I had a hard time doing this personally, but you can see pros do it when they do like speedruns and stuff like that. It's pretty cool to watch. But yeah, he's pretty simple. Now that we've beat him, we have to climb back up that pit that I showed earlier, so let's tackle that. So you just have to shoot these blocks, and as they reappear, climb up them. Easier said than done, trust me. The tedium has only begun.
It's really hard. When you do a screw attack, your control over your jump isn't as precise as doing a normal jump, which normally isn't a problem. But with these blocks, oh, and then you get booped by them. No boop. Boop back. No, it happens again. Sometimes it can help you though, but it's really annoying. Oh my god. No, all the way back down. No, oh my god, it's so tedious. Oh god, I've had it. This is just ridiculous. The hardest part of this game should be trying to climb out of a pit. It's ridiculous. I'm just going to use the death warp. A lot of health, though. It's going to take a while. Oh, man. You know, I know that this is considered cheating in some world. Ah! Bob! No. You're right, though. This is wrong. You're a true friend and talented cameraman. We have to beat this. I can't let the game beat me. No. We're going to do this. We're gonna succeed.
And done.
If I'm gonna say myself, I think that was just a little too easy.
I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Cancel it now. Just cancel it now. Alright. Kraid, down for the count. Now it's time for Ridley. For those of you who don't know, Ridley is kind of like the closest thing to like an arch nemesis to Samus, the main character. He appears in like every Metroid game except for like maybe 2 or 3 as a major boss or chief antagonist. His appearance in this game, unlike Kraid's, is actually mostly unchanged in the sequels. He typically is like a giant purple space pterodactyl. But here we go with the fight. Now, the strategy for fighting Ridley is pretty much the same as Kraid. Ideally, you want to use the ice beam to freeze his fireballs to eventually prevent him from spawning more, which makes him completely vulnerable. I did not bring the ice beam, though. I decided to shake things up and switch to the wave beam instead, which feels like it does a little more damage, and like the projectiles move in this like sine curve. But that means I can't freeze his projectiles. So maybe I could try to get behind him. Oh, here we go. Alright. Okay, well, this is working, I think. I have to wonder if the wave beam's even doing damage. I mean, most of the shots do get through.
Yay! Easy. Call me a world champion, baby. Alright.
With Ridley and Kraid both defeated, the pathway to Tourian is now open. It's important to note that you need the Ice Beam if you're going to go into Tourian, and the game has a balancing system for this. I used the Wave Beam when I fought Ridley. The Wave Beam itself, though, is worthless in Tourian. So you may be asking yourself, well then how can you beat the game? Well, simple. There are 2 different locations in the game where you can get the Ice Beam. This is the way to counterbalance the fact that Metroids can only be really defeated by freezing them and then hitting them with missiles. Yes, you can hit them with missiles without freezing them, but the little buggers move so fast and they're so aggressive that it's unlikely you're going to get any success out of just using missiles alone. You're going to get torn limb from limb. So, get yourself the Ice Beam and then head into Tourian. Tourian is the only part of the game that feels more like a typical side-scroller, because it's linear. It's one final challenge, one single path. No exploration, just you, the Metroids, and Mother Brain. The Metroids themselves are one of the more interesting enemies in the game. They're very aggressive. As soon as they're on screen, they just rush right toward you. They grab onto you with their little jaws and start sapping the life out of you. The only way to get them off is to roll into the morph ball and drop bombs. But during this whole process, you're taking damage, and one bomb isn't enough to get them off. You have to lay multiple, so it's pretty devastating, especially if more than one grab you at the same time. They can only be defeated by freezing them and then hitting them with missiles. And this is why the Ice Beam is so important for this game. Without it, you could use missiles alone, but it's unlikely you'd ever hit them enough times to kill them before they have a chance to grab onto you. As you push further into Tourian, every room has Metroids, and eventually rooms start to spawn these ring-shaped projectiles called Rinkas. They come from every direction, and they do pretty significant damage. It's just trying to wear you down before you get to Mother Brain's chambers. It's really obnoxious. You can learn to predict where they're coming from, you can freeze them in place, but there are times where they'll just take hits that you can't avoid, like the door thing that I mentioned earlier. That's never fun. But as you keep pushing through past everything, eventually you'll find yourself at the final battle. So this is it, the final room in the game, Mother Brain's chambers. The objective here is pretty simple. Get to the end of the room and defeat Mother Brain. But between her and here are a bunch of barriers called ZEBETH, or ZEBETH. These barriers can only be destroyed by missiles. This is where it gets really difficult, because you have ring projectiles, the Rinkas, are coming at you from every angle, there's turrets firing, there's so much going on that the game's slowing down, it's pandemonium. Now, the first time I did this, I ran out of missiles. Which sucks, because nothing in here drops missiles. So whatever you got when you come in is what you got to play with. And if you run out, well, you can only backtrack. So I thought to myself, well, maybe I can kill Metroids for health and more missiles. Well, paradox, because Metroids also can only be killed by missiles. So that means... So here we are on attempt number, I think this is actually 3 for me, to be honest. Making sure that I have as many missiles as possible going in, but, well, the barriers that you destroy actually stay destroyed, even on subsequent attempts, which is kind of convenient, so I didn't actually need to come in here fully stocked after all. Well, alright. Time to take on Mother Brain. Here she is, just a big old brain in a case. Stationary target. I almost feel kind of bad about it. All you gotta do is shoot missiles. That's it. The challenge comes from just trying to find the opportunity to actually shoot missiles, because all of these projectiles are constantly harassing you. If you manage to freeze at least 3 of the Rinka projectiles, no more of them can spawn. But I find it pretty challenging to freeze more than 2 without them either being an inconvenience to where you're trying to stand, or you end up destroying them on accident trying to freeze them and then they spawn again. But bottom line is, do whatever you can to line up shots to Mother Brain, keep hitting her, It's somewhere north of like 30 missiles. I want to say it's like 33. And then, boom! Got her. Seizure warning. Jesus. Well, we did it, right? That's it. Mother Brain's defeated. End credits. Champagne. Popcorn. Nope. Time bomb set. Get out fast! Gotta go fast. You gotta escape. You gotta navigate these narrow platforms and get out before the time expires and the bomb goes off. This actually is the tradition of the Metroid franchise. Off the top of my head, 4 or 5 of the games have this out of, like, the 12 that there are, give or take. So definitely a significant portion of the Metroid franchise has a sequence where you're escaping a self-destructing thing. Definitely a cool series tradition. But once we get to the top, the game is now officially over. So we did it. Here's the ending. Great! You fulfilled your mission. It will revive peace in space, but it may be invaded by the other Metroid. But pray for... Wait, what'll be invaded? The peace or the space? Whatever. I don't... Oh my god. Alright, but here we go. Oh. Secrets revealed. So there we have it. The big twist. Samus is a woman. Or Kenny G, judging by that. Pretty cool though, because the manual actually intentionally misdirects you. It describes Samus with masculine pronouns like he or him. So that makes it a really big twist for a lot of people that first played this back in the day. Obviously, you'd pretty much have to have the manual for it to be a twist. If it was just like revealed, it wouldn't have been like that big of a deal. Because you're like, oh, it was a woman the whole time? Oh, okay. But with this, it's like, whoa! This lied to me! Ah! Seeing without the helmet on is the third best ending. To get the best ending, you have to beat it in, I want to say, under an hour. That's pretty tough for someone like me. I'm not like a super talented speedrunner or anything, but there is a way that we could see this. We could use some of the codes. Let's check that out. So we can use a password that'll place us at Tourian with all items and upgrades with the game clock at 0, which means that it's starting fresh. The only problem being there's no ice beam, so torn limb from limb issue. Not a big deal though. I can make a detour into Brinstar to grab the ice beam, come back, beat the game, and get the best ending. Alright, we did it. Best ending achieved. Here we go. What's in store? Oh man, Nintendo. Oh, calm down. Oh jeez. Alright, the best ending. Samus in a bikini. Oh man, it's definitely a controversy point for the game. You do some quick research online, you find a lot of stuff. So people don't like how it's a twist that she's a woman and that you're playing as a girl the whole time or whatever. So it's like, oh, she was a woman the whole time. Oh, because the manual lies to you. It says that it's a he and him when referring to Samus. And boom, mind blown, it's a woman. But they're celebrating that. But at the same time, hey, you beat the game faster. She's got less clothing on. So I can understand where the controversy comes from, because they're like, hey, you're objectifying her at the same time that you're celebrating the fact that it's a woman. Like, I don't know. I used to care more about it. I don't really anymore, because at the end of the day, does it like hurt her character? Absolutely not. In every game, she's awesome. She's a really powerful, really cool, and super interesting female protagonist. Metroid Other M is like the only one that like kind of damages that, not because it sexualizes her, but because it makes her boring and useless, and that's why that's one of the more flawed games in the series. But all the other ones, it's fine. It doesn't detract from it at all for me personally. But
But I definitely get it. I can see why people have an issue with it. I definitely don't anymore. But, you know, it's worth bringing up.
So one final thing I wanted to go over before concluding this is Metroid Zero Mission. Metroid Zero Mission is an enhanced remake of the original Metroid game. And I gotta say, every complaint that I've made thus far in this revisiting is solved in Zero Mission. It's a great game. Whether it's mechanics such as being able to shoot in 8 directions, or new features like now they have a map system, and the environments have more variation to them thanks to the enhanced graphics. They added cutscenes, there's a whole new third act to the game. It's just awesome. They even added upgrades from games that came out after the original Metroid, so things like the space jump and the speed booster, which were not present in the original, are now in this enhanced remake. So it's super awesome. Basically, if you took Metroid and Super Metroid and fused them into one game, you get Zero Mission. It's really awesome, and I highly recommend playing it. If you're in any way interested in these games, I would almost recommend it, I would definitely recommend it, above playing the original, honestly. If you're the kind of person that enjoys playing games in higher fidelity, or just more modern games, Zero Mission is definitely the one to seek out first. It's a great way to introduce yourself to the franchise. So yeah, with that, let's move on to the conclusion.
Well, that about wraps up this revisiting of Metroid. In summary, if I was going to use one word, it would be antiquated. And that definitely sounds negative, and it kind of is. So, the first, 20, 30 minutes of this game were a mixture of being really, really boring and really, really tedious. Once you start to get more of the upgrades, the game gets far more interesting and more fun, especially after you get, the screw attack and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's a game that's almost too ambitious, interestingly enough. It's got this huge world that you can explore at your leisure once you get at least missiles and morph ball bombs. At that point, you can go anywhere you want, pending a couple of areas. So it's got this huge world to explore, but it doesn't have a map system, and the map that comes in the manual is like a joke. So a lot of people get confused, and that's a big turnoff for this game. A friend of mine said that exact thing. He's like, I played it for 20 minutes, didn't know where I should go, and I gave up. That's what happened to me too. I got I tried to, you can explore Brinstar and kind of find things on accident pretty easily, but God help you if you don't have a map and you're going into Norfair trying to find Ridley's hideout. Holy Lord. I would not have been able to do without a map. I used the map just to see the world. I didn't use it to plot my course necessarily. It was just occasionally, okay, where am I? Okay, I can go any of these directions from here. Alright, got it. Without that though, I would have been lost. So for anyone who's played this game and gotten all the way through it to the end without using a map, you are crazy. Because that means that you would have been morph ball bombing every single tile in every single room, just trying to see where you can or can't go. It's ridiculous. And that's the biggest detraction that I have with this game is that feature. It's a confusing game. That said, with a map, as you get more upgrades, as you explore the world, it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. It's an engaging experience. It's cool. It just doesn't hold up very well. It's definitely mechanically inferior to all the sequels, which obviously makes sense. It's the first one. It's an NES game. So, makes sense. I could really only recommend this to real hardcore Metroid fans. No one else, I would imagine, would have that much fun with it. There are far better NES games that hold up way better than this does that you can play, say Mega Man 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, Kirby's Adventure. Those are all NES games that don't feel that dated. You can play them and still have fun with them, legit. This one, you kind of have to force yourself through at certain points. You're just telling yourself, okay, I've got to get past this part, and then it gets better. That is a summation of this whole game. If I get through this, it gets better. So that's kind of how it was. But hey, there we go. Next time, something far more fun and colorful and silly. Your one hint, is that we're going to be doing aileron rolls. But in this game, they call it barrel rolls. Next time.